Welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Jennifer Collier. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for Practice Doc. Today's webinar is entitled Improving Office Efficiencies and Growing Practice Revenues Through Effective Patient Communication with our special guest, Joseph Stith and Ron Hartley with Solutionreach. To give you a little background on both, Joseph has been coaching doctors and medical professionals since 1984 on marketing strategies and technology for enhancing patient-doctor communication. In addition to coaching and consulting, Joseph's contributions have resulted in 3 Best of State awards for his work in developing advanced technologies in communication and innovative web solutions. Joseph is now the Director of Business Development and Product Engagement at Solutionreach, home of the Smile Reminder patient engagement platform. Ron joined Solutionreach about a year ago, bringing with him a wealth of consulting experience where he focused on marketing, brand messaging, and business strategies, and enhanced communications. Ron currently develops and nurtures key partnerships and businesses relationships with medical aesthetic verticals for Solutionreach. Before we get started, I wanted to let each of you know that if you have any questions at any time during the webinar, you can submit your question in the GoToWebinar question box you can see displayed on your screen. Or if you wait till the end, we'll actually have everyone's email contact information if you want to email them directly. We'll make sure that we get back to you with a direct answer within a couple of days or so, if not today. And we do have a special offer at the end of the webinar, so make sure you stay tuned. And now I will turn this webinar over to Joseph and Ron. Welcome.
Thanks a lot, Jennifer. Appreciate that great introduction. And thank you also to everyone who's on this webinar. We know that schedules are busy. You have a lot you could be doing. We appreciate that you took the time out to learn a little bit more today about growing your practice revenues through effective communication. Something that we're very passionate about, and we'll share some ideas with you today that will help you in a lot of ways. Something that prompted this for us, this topic of communication, was some research that was done by Ted Kapchuk at the Harvard Medical School. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but he demonstrated this, what he calls the care effect. And basically what that was, they were able to actually measure and show that patient outcomes improved when there was effective communication with the patient. And I thought that was pretty significant. This goes way beyond the placebo effect. They were actually able to measure an improved outcome simply by that patient feeling like someone really cared about them and was communicating with them. And so we're passionate about communication and want to share some things with you today that should be helpful for you. Really what we want to help you understand is how to put the patient at the center of your practice. And that's exactly where that patient should feel that they are. We'll share some ideas with you today that will help you acquire new patients, retain your existing patients, reactivate patients that may have gone dormant, and also educate your patients. And that all works together in a very synergistic way to help with communication between the practice and the patient. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Joseph Stith for just a minute.
Thank you, Ron. One of the best ways to describe what we call the patient compass and the focus that we have on patients is with a compass. And to take notes on this, it's a lot easier if you just do an old-fashioned sheet of paper and a pen. If you could just draw a compass, I'm going to ask you to just make a few notes around that compass to make sense about what the patient compass represents. The concept is that patients coming through your practice are going in different directions. And a northbound patient is one that has what we call a high care factor. You can just write right next to the end, just write a little arrow up and the word care. And when I mean high care factor, I mean that they are conscientious about their health care and about the way they look. In addition to, they care about your practice. They find a home there in meeting their needs, their healthcare needs, or their aesthetic needs, or their medical needs. And they wouldn't think about going anywhere else. In addition, another arrow up right under that with a dollar sign, if you would. They have the money to pay for the treatment that they need or treatment that's required. They may not be wealthy by any means, but they're not going to nickel and dime you with a request for special offers or second opinions. they have the funds available to pay for needed treatment. These are the patients everyone loves to have, and every doctor wishes they could fill their practice with northbound patients. The reality is we have many of those, but not everyone is a northbound patient. A westbound patient is someone that has just as high of a care factor. So just do another little arrow up with the word care. But arrow down on the dollar sign, because they don't have the funds available to them, no fault of theirs, that maybe a northbound patient has. But they're a good risk when we make financial arrangements with these people, when you decide to do so, if that's possible for your practice, because of their high care factor. We'll come back to them in a minute. Then you have the eastbounders. Eastbounds are a little dangerous. They're high risk in your practice because they have the money. That's not the problem. It's just that everything else seems to be a little higher priority when they're scheduled for their treatment. Anything can be a distraction, and they don't value their care, or maybe the way they look, or their value of your practice is not what it would be for a north or a westbound patient. So when you have cancellations in your schedule, most often they could be coming from an eastbound patient that doesn't have the same values that maybe you share in even in just keeping an appointment that they make. A lot of last-minute cancellations with an eastbound. And of course, the southbound is one that doesn't care about your practice or their health, and they don't have the money. And you wouldn't think you'd see any of these patients, but invariably, when they have to come in because maybe something tragic has happened in their lives, or they're in pain, or they feel they have to do something, these people will come out of the woodwork if you have a reputation that you do a lot of special deals, or you do offer certain giveaways, heaven forbid. And in aesthetics and medicine, that's not often as common as some other elective forms of medicine. But when you market to everyone across the board, sometimes you attract more southbound individuals than your practice can afford, and they are very high-risk individuals. So the concept is this. The concept being every member of your team, your patient base, is going in a multitude of different directions. And if you could circle, since you've created this diagram, if I could circle the east and the south in the bottom right-hand quadrant, it's these individuals that we often build all of our policies and procedures around to protect us from the abuse that we see from these individuals in our schedule. And yet invariably, sometimes we just keep reappointing them and suffering over and over again. When 80%, if you were to circle the north and the west, 80% of our attention should be going to those individuals, because that's where our greatest return on investment is. And too often we get sucked into the other factors, the eastbound and the southbound, that are abusing us and abusing our schedule, and we're trying to protect ourselves from what they can do to our practice. The emphasis has to be on creating efficiencies around those who give us our greatest return on investment and represent a true win-win arrangement with your practice and their needs as a patient. I'd also note that when you get a referral from a northbound patient, they're not traveling south. They're going to normally be another northbound patient. So the reason this is so important is to begin to identify that each patient going in a different direction requires different needs from you as a practice, as a professional. To a northbound patient, I want to employ technology and strategies that inspire them to refer, because those are the patients I want to build my practice on. And yet, invariably, It's the northbound patients that will assume that you are just as successful as perhaps they are, and they might ask questions like, are you accepting new patients? And of course you are, but for every patient that asks that, you have to wonder how many others wondered that but never asked that question. So you need to make it easy and regularly communicate with a northbound patient, making it easy for them, perhaps through technology and the message that you send, that allow northbounders to make it easy for them to refer their friends and family and to talk about how they love your practice. For a westbound patient, I need to communicate that we can make this healthcare affordable, but in a way that doesn't offend them. And that can be done with the right technology. To an eastbound patient, they need education, and they need to be minimized in the way that we schedule them so that we don't put ourselves at risk. There are technologies available to do that as well that we'll be talking about here in a minute. And to the southbound, if we do have good systems in place that are efficient in dealing with individuals of that category, we need to be very clear on what our policies are, and we need to focus on communicating with them what this practice means and how we can perhaps incorporate them into our practice without sacrificing our level of care and our standards for meeting their needs. So with each of those categories, they all have different needs. And if you try and treat every patient the same, you'll be frustrated in your measure of being able to build the efficiencies in your practice that will give you the greatest ROI.
Thank you, Joseph. I love hearing that north, south, east, west patient information. Now, this slide that just came up looks just the same as the last one, except for the title at the top. This is the practice compass. And something that we have found is just like there are northbound, southbound, eastbound, and westbound patients, there are also practices that fall into those same categories. And so what we want you to think about is, what are you? Are you a northbound, a southbound, eastbound, westbound? How good are you at communicating with your patients? What we have seen is that roughly 20% of practices end up giving 80% of the communication. There are a lot out there that maybe aren't doing an effective job of it. And so we want to give you some tools today to help you become better communicators with your patients. I want to use an analogy here just for a second. And I don't know how many of you are baseball fans, but here's a scouting report. Looks like this was done by the Texas Rangers last year. As a matter of fact, it wasn't done by them. It was done by the fans for the fans. But this gives you an idea of what baseball teams look at when they're scouting new players. These are multi-million-dollar decisions that they're making when they're bringing on new players into their team. And so they look at every little detail. If you look at that top person, Adrian Beltre on the list, position 5. Those of you who are baseball fans will know that position 5 is third base. So it's the third baseman. And they go talk about his average rating, total votes, in that kind of light blue, the reaction and instincts, they've rated him there. Then you get into the green area. They look at his acceleration on first few steps, his velocity and sprint speed, then his hands and catching. Then in the purplish area, we talk about his footwork, his throwing strength and accuracy. They look at every detail, and it's important to do that because they don't want to miss anything that could be a factor in this decision that they're making. And on this chart, they haven't even talked about his batting. That's probably on another chart somewhere else. So the reason I showed you this is because I think it's important for you to think about your own report card and how you're measuring up in different areas. Of course, it's not speed, it's not arm strength, it's not velocity, but some other things.
And as you consider the team compass and the practice compass, Ron and I both know as consultants that it's very common for practices to identify their patients in their chart or in their EMR as to what type of patient they are, so they can immediately recognize those patients that are northbound and those that perhaps are west, and heaven forbid, east or south. Sometimes that's just an appropriate thing to do when we're assessing the relationships that we have with patients.
And so what we've put together for this webinar today, we've called it the Practice Doc Scouting Report Card. And so these are some things, and we'll just list them all here, and then we'll talk a little bit more about each one. But these are things that we think you should be looking at in your practice and evaluating how well you're doing. So first of all, are you maintaining a full schedule? What's your no-show rate? Are you quickly able to fill those cancellations that are going to happen? Secondly, are you re-engaging some of these overdue patients, patients that have gone dormant? You haven't seen them for a while. Do you have an effective means of getting them back in the door? And then thirdly, are you educating your patients with relevant, timely, recurring information? Do you have a system in place to get that information out to them? Do you consistently receive feedback on the patient experience and their satisfaction? Of course, you have in your mind a thought and feeling about how effective and efficiently your practice is running. It's important to reach out and find out what your patients think, and you might be surprised from time to time. Do you have a means of sending out meaningful, personalized messages to patients? We're talking about things like thank you notes or birthday cards, things like that. Do you maintain a strong social media presence? 10 years ago, this wouldn't even be on the list because we wouldn't know what that meant. But today, it's becoming more and more important to have a presence on the web and in social media. Do you acquire and manage patient reviews and have them up on top sites? Most people now, at least 50 to 60%, and maybe more, when they're considering medical care, they go to the web, they look at reviews, they look at what's happening, what other people are saying. Do you effectively market your products and services to your existing patients? I think you all know that it costs 6 to 7 times as much to bring in a new patient as it does to maintain an existing patient. And so we believe effective marketing to your current database is very important. And lastly, do you measure the success of your practice performance?
Technology now exists to be able to send emails and text messages to remind your patients of their upcoming appointments. When this technology first launched 13 years ago, the biggest complaint from patients was, I can't believe you sent me a text. That just cost me 15 cents and you didn't ask for my permission. Now, 13 years later, it's exactly the opposite. That's why you were trying to call me? I can't believe you were trying to call me for that when you could have just sent me a text. Texting and email have become the preference that patients now wish you would use to remind them of a patient of their appointment or to confirm. And with whatever technology you use for this type of reminder, you have a limited amount of real estate using the email first. There's a number of things you want to communicate, but you have to balance that with too much information and in a marketing sense, not wanting to make it too busy. But that confirm now button should do all of the work for you. Instead of someone sitting on a phone confirming patients in your schedule, that many of the appointments that you schedule can be confirmed by the patient far in advance so that you know that's a patient you don't have to call. In addition, there are a number of things that we like to look for, and that is, can they submit a review from that email? Can they refer a friend? Can they add it to their calendar automatically? And can they look up a Google map of your location and tie into other social media outlets? Those are just some of the things that we look for when we're looking at technologies to make this work. We have something else that we feel is very important, and that is whenever a practice has a missed appointment or a canceled appointment, for instance, on any given day, often that ties up the time of the front desk professionals to try and fill that appointment. And that can take a few minutes to potentially a couple hours to call through and consider who might be able to fill that schedule with patients in the future or patients that may be waiting for an appointment. Now you can send out a simple text by creating a group that may be on call, ready for the next appointment or ready for a change in your schedule. And when you send out a text like this, we've got an appointment at 3 o'clock today, the first person to call can take advantage of that appointment, you find that patients are then competing for that, and the rest of your schedule for the week can often be filled out by using this type of strategy to maximize your time. If they call in, the first person that calls in obviously gets the appointment, but others will call in, and rather than turn them away, you can simply say, you know, we filled that, but we've got another appointment tomorrow that just became available at 2 o'clock. Would that work for you as well? A great way to maximize your schedule. There are a number of patients in the most healthy practices. There are still going to be a number of patients that have fallen through the cracks that you really need to reactivate and get back into your practice, whatever it may be. So imagine a system, a technology that automatically searches your practice management software for those patients that haven't been in within a year, and then periodically sends out an invitation for them to call for an appointment. That allows the front desk individuals to schedule on an incoming basis rather than to have to spend time researching who should be called and calling people that no longer answer their phones anyway, because much of the communication is done through email and through text. Oh, it just seems like yesterday that we would feel the obligation as a consultant to stay in front of our patients with newsletters and trying to stay in a top-of-mind awareness with educating our patients on what we felt they needed to know on procedures that we were investing in and new procedures and products that they needed to be aware of. But you know, by the time you designed and developed a 4-color glossy print, had it printed, sorted it, had it stuffed and mailed, it would take months, it seemed, and it was time to start all over again if you had the intention or the goal of doing 2 or 3 of these a year, and the cost of doing that was exorbitant. Now we can do that with literally a keystroke to those patients that you have targeted to receive specific information that may apply to them without sending information to a number of patients that may not apply for the type of education that you feel that they need. It should be about sending the right message to the right patient at the right time on a regularity that is cost effective, now done digitally through email, more simple than ever before. We get the question yet today in an age of technology as to whether or not we feel it is necessary to ask patients their opinion for like post-appointment surveys. You know, even if they never fill it out, you are sending a very effective message that you care about what they think and that you're listening. But you'll be surprised how many will actually take the time to fill out a short survey, which shouldn't be more than just 4 to 6 questions. But we have designed, and a good technology for post-appointment surveys should allow you to ask at least one open-ended question so that that feedback can be fed into social media in a way that energizes your social presence, because people are talking about your practice if you inspire it. So we are huge proponents of post-appointment surveys, or sending surveys anytime you feel the need without overdoing that.
And then the important thing, once you get that information coming back, you want to be able to have it in a legible format so that you can evaluate it and see how you're doing. And here's just a sample of a report that would be important for you to have. The practices that have done this have had great results in being able to evaluate how they're doing and how their patients feel about them. And so you can see this question number 1, how would you rate your overall visit? Well, 80% have said excellent, and that's great. Very good, another 18%. And then it looks like 1% average, and then there's a not so good. It looks like maybe there was one response there. The nice thing about this little system also is that if you get a response that's not so good, you certainly want to find out why that person had a negative experience in your office. And the ability to be able to ping you or send you a text or an email and say, hey, you just had someone in your office who did not have a great experience. That gives you the opportunity to reach out to them immediately with a phone call and say, we had you in our office today, and apparently something didn't quite go right. Can you share with me what went wrong and what we can do to correct that for you? And so it's an opportunity to quickly react. And so a snapshot like this is really helpful in being able to have an overview of what your patients think about you, and then you can take appropriate action.
Very good, Ron. I mean, when it comes to proving how responsive you are to patients, that more than perhaps anything determines their level of satisfaction with your office. So imagine having a system set up so that automatically, if someone was to rate anything on your survey as an average or a not so good in particular, that be automatically sent to the doctor or the office manager's cell phone so that a call could be immediately initiated. When we see that happening, the patients are blown away by the measure of responsiveness that technology can now support.
When we talk about patient communication, sometimes it's just the fun little things that really make a difference. A lot of you are probably sending out birthday cards, buying cards, addressing them, putting a note in, and mailing them out. We have found in this day and age, really using the technology that is out there is an effective way to do the same thing. It's less expensive, it takes less time, and quite frankly, it's more effective. So this is just an example of an email on the left and a text on the right wishing someone a happy birthday. And picture this, surprisingly, this is a great marketing tool. And you think, well, how is it a marketing tool? Picture a group of women sitting around in a restaurant on the birthday, having lunch together. I mean, that's what we do on birthdays. We go out to lunch with people. And your patient gets a text while at lunch saying, wanted to wish you a happy birthday, hope you're having a great day, just wanted you to know we were thinking about you. Well, that patient is going to say, look what I just got from my doctor, a nice birthday greeting. And everyone at the table will say, you did? Who is your doctor? The name gets pushed out, and perhaps referrals come in from that very simple gesture. Now, there's a practice that we work with that has done a case study on this, actually. They started using this, and in 1 year, they generated almost $50,000 in additional revenues simply from the birthday greeting. And if any of you are interested in having a look at that, I'll put my email address up at the end of the presentation. I'd be happy to email a copy of that case study to you so you can see how that actually happened. It's phenomenal. How something as simple as a birthday communication can be so meaningful and bring in additional revenues to the practice.
And that was an aesthetics practice too, wasn't it, Ron?
That was an aesthetics practice,
yeah. Plastic surgery. Mm-hmm. You'll also notice on this email, you'll see a little blue gift-wrapped package. We have gone so far as to make this really fun so that when you click on, or when the patient clicks on that little box or gift, it links to a YouTube video that the practice has pre-recorded and pre-designed so that the practice could then wish that patient happy birthday right from the practice. That has been so overwhelmingly successful, and we have a number of examples that we would be glad to show you that will have all of you laughing. That Ron's email address will be given at the end of this, and he would be glad to send you some examples of those to make that fun for you to see what's being done there. Patients talk about that more than just about any other message that they get. And if there's anything that we know after being in consulting as long as we have, it's that the success of a practice is determined by the relationships and the depth of the relationships that those patients have with the doctor and with you as a staff and a team. And that's what we try to facilitate through technology, so that it's not about choosing technology as second best. It's about blending technology with high touch. High tech with high touch is what it's all about. And people just refer this type of communication today.
And one more thing I just wanted to say about this particular application. This is all automated. Once you have this set up in your practice, you don't have to go in every day and say, okay, send out birthday greetings to all those who have birthdays. It automatically happens. You don't even have to think about it. And your patients, you know, in their eyes, you're thinking about them and sending out a personal message to them, but it all happens automatically without intruding on any of your staff time.
Wonderful. When it comes to social media and what's being said about your practice online, I really doubt if there's a doctor out there who knows what's being said in every possible rating site at any given time. I mean, it's just impossible to imagine you being able to spend any time trolling all of those rating sites to see what's being said about you. So imagine a technology that has directed the 9 major rating sites into one dashboard so that you can see at a glance what's being said about you, in particular, just your practice or just the doctor, good, bad, or indifferent. And imagine then that if everything, for instance, on this example for the active monitor, under Judy's book, we've got 22 comments there that are all positive, and we know that because we've coded it green. And we got a little problem with you know, let's say Merchant Circle. Merchant Circle we've identified as red because of those 6, we've got some negative reviews there that really need to be identified. So imagine being able to go there just with a hyperlink, review what's being said about you, and whether or not you want to respond directly is up to you and your own practice philosophy. But what we've done is create a technology allowing you to direct all of the reviews that you're inviting patients to make to just that one place. For instance, Super Pages or Merchant Circle, because 90% or 99% of all the reviews that people will say about your practice will be positive. You can actually direct them all to that one area that is lacking in positive reviews. Thus, there's a word for this, and I always forget, equalizing the negative response with overwhelming positive response to clean up that area of your social reputation. We like to call it your webutation or your online reputation. In addition to that, we have a technology called active push. You see, when a patient is looking for a doctor for any given specific service or medical need, if they use the internet for that search, the search engine will access what they know about you on a number of different criteria. Number one, what's out there in a directory site, of which there are more than 300 sites, 250 to 300 directory sites, very different than rating sites, but the directory sites determine what is going to be served up on that search based on how consistent the information is that they have and how often that has been provided for them. So we create a profile for every one of our clients that talks about what insurance you carry, what specialties you have, and what makes your practice unique, and we push that automatically to more than 250 directory sites every month. Those are some of the technologies that allow you to manage your reputation without having to do it directly. We've had search engine consultants, SEOs, actually invest in our Active Monitor on behalf of their clients because it allows them to do what they do so much faster and so much easier as a tool to manage your online reputation, which has everything to do with your online marketing today. We've also learned that it's a little dangerous for members of your team to be sitting on Facebook while they're in the office. Facebook is so distracting, and it's just so overwhelming when you've got that open all day. So we've created a way for you to actually do a status update, to send an update right from the platform without actually opening Facebook, so that you can still be socially active in that regard, and send it to a multiple forms of communication. You can select Facebook and Twitter and email and text all at one time if you needed to get an update to your patients. We've noticed this was very popular when we've had major disasters from the East Coast to recently Oklahoma, where you needed to get information to your patient base immediately about the status of your practice and whether you're going to be closed, or needed to get an emergency message to your patients. In addition, in the bottom right-hand corner, we make it possible for patients to actually schedule or request appointments right from your Facebook page, which makes it easier for you to manage that aspect of your Facebook as well. And when it comes to making campaigns, we talked about this a little bit before with regard to newsletters, but campaigns on a regular basis shouldn't be something that you have to create from scratch. All of you are very busy doing what you do in your office, and so when we're talking about efficiency and increasing your productivity, what would it be like to pull from a database or a library of campaigns and newsletters that have already been created with graphics and text that you can completely edit yourself, because none of it is copywritten, and much of it has been provided by manufacturers to assist you in communicating the very services that you've invested in being able to offer your patients. You know, I may have been one of the very first consultants when Solutionreach was first launched 13 years ago to create the first case study. I was introduced to it by a doctor who had just come back from a conference and learned about this technology. Back then, text did not have any professional application, and it was very new. And he said, you know, you think we ought to try this? We could let patients know by text, reminding them of their patients, and even do birthday messages. And I said, well, you know, let's give it a shot. Let's see if it works. Well, it not only worked, it worked so well that we eliminated open share time in the first 3 months by 80%, which had an immediate upside to our productivity. And in addition, the person that we were paying part-time to come in, I think for $600 a month, she came in 2-3 days a week to just sit on the phone calling patients that we needed to get back into the office. We eliminated the need for that and promoted her to the front desk to handle patient coordination. So the immediate upside of being able to manage by measurement and using a technology that had an immediate ROI, unlike anything we've ever installed with regard to maybe a practice management system or a software system, was beyond anything that we'd ever seen. So I began referring this service to all of my other clients and did that for over 10 years and saw the same immediate ROI that's available today. Only Solutionreach never stopped building the program. They continued to program and build and add more and more features and enhancements, and after 13 years, it is by far the best system that Ron and I have ever seen available for maximizing the efficiency of a practice.
You know, and there are a number of places you can go to find technologies like we've talked about today. But we're winding down now. We wanted to thank you all for staying on and listening to us. And as a thank you to you, we want to make this offer. If you'd like a live demo of some of the things that we talked about today, you can call the number on the screen, just jot that down, and mention Practice Doc when you call in. Not only will you get a free demo, but we'll also send you out a $25 American Express gift card.
We don't believe in a hard sell. We've tried to educate in this webinar features that can impact the productivity and the efficiencies of your practice, whether you use our technology or something like it. We know that we're the best because we've been in the market much longer than any one of our competitors. However, you'll find that when you call one of our sales executives, this is not a hard sell experience. This is very educational, and it will allow you to see and evaluate aspects of your practice that you may need to reconsider as you look at utilizing technology that can maximize your schedule today. But to make it worth your while, we're going to make it that much more fun to offer a $25 Amex gift card for just the privilege of having you call in for a demo.
Yep. And when you call in, someone will set up a time with you to do a demo, and you might want to have your office staff on that demo with you so that you can all have a look at it. And then finally, if you have any additional questions, I don't think we'll take time today to answer questions, but if you have questions, there is my email, ronh@solutionreach.com. Feel free to send me an email with your question, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. Also, if you wanted to have a look at that case study that I mentioned, just shoot me an email and I'll send that out to you as well. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and thank you, Jennifer, for setting this up. It's been a pleasure for us, and we hope that the information that we shared today has been informational and educational for all of you.
It's been a privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. If anyone's still on and would like to see this again, we will have it on demand at www.practicedoc.com under the big blue button that says On Demand Webinars. And give me a few days and I'll have that up for you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.